The courage theme that we're working with is such an interesting and broad-based exploration. And the focus today is on the courage to know myself. The theme of courage and connection, and we really can't be connected with other people when we're not really connected with ourselves. So we're going to start there. It's always interesting when I do these topics. I quite often will go on Google to see what people are doing. And one of the things about courage is there's so many memes about courage. A lot of them really illustrate our culture's aggression around courage. Like, courage means there's something wrong if you feel fear. Courage is pushing ourselves somehow to get through the fear or to pretend it's not there or to recognize it's there and move forward. We can do that in many different ways. But the sense that there's something here that's creating some kind of fear, and we're going to work with it, that it is workable, that we don't have to master our fear. We can allow it to be here like we allow everything else to be here. We go forward. I wanted to work for this month. The theme is around cultivating the courage to be really present with ourselves and each other. We have three different types of courage: physical courage. That's often what we think of when we think of courage. Somebody jumped into a river to save somebody who was in danger of drowning, so we put our own body at risk. Or sometimes people will be frozen and not be able to do that. That's not really the type of courage we're working with right now. Emotional courage is more the focus, telling our story, telling our boundaries, telling our truth, even in higher stakes situations. Notice if I'm in an environment, for instance, if I'm at a pride march with other LGBTQ people, it takes some courage to go to the march. But it doesn't take courage to be out and be who I am when I'm there. Whereas if I'm at a demonstration of somebody who's quite right wing, or if I'm in my office, which has happened to me that somebody really clearly stated that they thought I should be in hell for being a lesbian, then it takes a different kind of courage to be who we are and to stick up for who we are. Emotional courage is something that we're very prone to shaming ourselves around. I should have been more courageous. I shouldn't have taken that risk. There's a lot going on. So we're going to work a lot with the underbelly of this. And moral courage is having the ability to stand up for what we feel is right. And if we can do that with other people, that's a lot more effective, but it helps to counteract that feeling of fear. That's our general, some of the levels that we're working with. Let's stop for a moment and read through these ones on the top of the screen. It takes courage to see the truth and to really invite the clarity and the insight of what's true. Our nervous system has a big impact on that. If we're in freeze, if we're in a fight response, oftentimes we lose it and we can't really see clearly. To know and accept myself, and this is a journey that all of us are on, and to see how we might be, even in a subtle way, shaming ourselves. It might be quite obvious. I should have had the courage to speak up for myself. Or it might be a little bit more. We have the inner critic that often comes in there too. It might be a little less obvious. To be on my own side, to have the courage to not only see what's happening, but also to stand up for myself, to be that empathetic, supportive adult that I might not have had when I was younger, and that we all need. That we need someone to protect us. And maybe we have to protect ourselves as we're further into our adult years. It's something that we all have to work with. The second part of these last two are more that we're going to move into in the next few weeks. Knowing another, really seeing the truth, having good discernment so we can see the truth, and not shaming or judging somebody for being who they are and as they are, to really let ourselves know the truth, to be authentic and vulnerable with other people, and to really connect with other people is something that we long for. And it's something that's not that easy. Sometimes we have a barrier to that. I love all of Brené Brown's work, really. But the courage is a heart word. And the root of the word courage is core, actually, which means heart. And the word courage meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. And that really speaks to the vulnerability and the bravery that it takes. Love hard, be brave, she says. That's quite an advanced practice. Let's sit with this for a moment. I can take the risk to fully know myself and let myself be known by others. This is a reverse inquiry. We're looking to see what's my response. I can take the risk to fully know myself and let myself be known by others, to live with vulnerability and authenticity, and to speak up and tell all of my heart. Notice what your response is. Let's go into some inquiry around this. One of the things about the statement we just were looking at about I can tell all of my heart is that it's not always safe to do that. We need to be practical. We need to be practical on a level of what's the response likely from the other person. Also, is this something that I am wanting to share more widely with that particular person? We need to be practical about how we're doing that. If there's any shaming coming up, keep an eye out for that, 'cause that's really important. What is courage? What does that feel like when you think about courage? What does it feel like energetically in your body? Is there a sense of excitement or dread or something else? What is your response to that word? How does that feel in your body? Some people will have an image or a felt sense of courage. There's a certain way we hold our body. We think about a shame posture, slumped over, our eyes are down. Courage posture would be something of the opposite. We straighten our back, we stand up, we're grounded. Notice your breath. I think this would be something that's true for all of us, that we want to be more courageous in terms of being on our own side and being true to ourselves. What's that like in your life? Are you feeling like, yeah, I'm pretty much there? I don't very often let things slide. I feel like I can see things more clearly now. I'm working with the inner critic. I'm not as hard on myself anymore. Or maybe it's, I really still need to do a lot of work in that area. Let's give that a minute to see what comes up when you think about cultivating the courage to be on your own side. Notice if you push yourself a lot. We might have a feeling of fear and not wanting to touch into that, so we dominate or overcome or force a courage to feel less afraid. Really seeing ourselves fully takes a lot of courage and vulnerability. Often, what happens is we come up with something that it touches on a core deficiency belief of I'm not good enough or I'm always a coward or whatever that might be for you. Can you bring in a feeling of compassion? These benchmarks of this is how I would know I'm courageous is if I always do all of these things. They can be around that's quite uncomfortable in terms of shaming ourselves. Could you bring in some compassion? It's really a complicated thing to be courageous, and it doesn't always mean the same thing. And it's hard. If you were to look at being in freeze and not really seeing clearly, not standing up for yourself, can you bring some compassion into that to yourself and for yourself? You could hold your own hands, you could put your hand on your heart, breathe. Take a minute to sit with whatever is most strongly resonating for you, or one of those sentences really catching your attention. This is something that we could certainly keep looking into and revisiting again and again. It's very helpful. Let's finish with noticing, what does it feel like in your body when you act in a courageous way? Maybe it's that you get yourself really grounded. You notice your feet in your seat. Maybe you lift up your collarbones, let your shoulders relax, your upper back relax. Take a few deep breaths. Maybe you have an image in mind of sharing something or saying something, setting a boundary. You can see how you're standing and feel that. Let's take a moment to tune into that in your body. I'm doing something that's courageous. What does that feel like? Your eyes are probably up, they're not down. You're not looking down. You might have some strong energy in your body, but you're fairly regulated. Let yourself feel into that for another moment. What does courage feel like in your body?